I gotta make my videos more exciting, so we're changing things up. Today we're talking about Marvel. Oh, about to lose my impending Marvel Snap sponsorship. Uh-oh. Now, while my interest in varying card games waxes and wanes over the years, for the past year and change, the main one of my attention has been Marvel Snap. I've tried a whole lot of digital card games over the years, and from the anime titty ones to the formerly goated ones, I miss you, Gwent, Marvel Snap has honestly come to become one of my favorites. From a gameplay standpoint, that is. I genuinely think the in-game systems are designed for a remarkable, challenging, and interesting experience. I get the same feeling as pre-1.0 Gwent. Never forget, it really just... See, I don't mind the Magic-esque ones like Runeterra or Hearthstone, but the dudes hitting dudes, and then sometimes the dudes hit you or the other player type of game doesn't really have the same kind of hold on me as more strategic ones where you have to win a certain amount of rounds or a certain amount of locations. Those kinds of games for me really hit hard every single time. Exactly like hitting the subscribe button. Now, the reason why I want to talk about Snap today is because I find it to be truly a double-edged sword of a video game. A lot of online games are these days, but honestly, Snap is one of the double-edgiest. The founder and general spokesperson of the game, Ben Brode, the former ex-Hearthstone game director and Blizzard employee, brought that Blizzard polish with him when he founded his company to make Marvel Snap. The art and the animations and the audio and the gameplay systems are just so splendid to take part of and feel so good to engage with. Which is why it's really disappointing that Ben Brode also brought the Blizzard way of making the systems outside of the actual game be annoying, exploitative, and just generally obtuse to an unnecessary degree. Chief of them all, and the most important part for any card game, is the card acquisition. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to be talking about like the monetization of this game that much, because it's a war that has long been lost. Second Dinner gets away with charging the prices that they can because people will just buy them. They have their data people, they have the business people, they have the numbers, they have the charts, they have the behavioral psychologists that understand that people will buy these JPEGs regardless of cost. So complaining about them is pointless. The whales always win. Move on. Oh, and just to give myself slightly more credibility than just being a random guy on the internet complaining about a probably children's card game, I just want to point out, A, I have reached Infinite, the highest rank in the game, multiple times. I have that fundamental understanding and skill of the systems to reach that level. I have been playing it for over a year, so I have been engaging with the systems on a long-term basis. And 3, I'm a digital designer. I deal with products and websites and systems. I understand a lot of the base mechanics and foundations that this game is designed on, even though it isn't a one-to-one translation from digital design to game design, it definitely still counts. I'm very familiar with gamification, marketing, and advertising, so I am acutely aware of what's going on here. And with all that being said, due to how Snap functions with its 12-card decks of individual non-duplicate cards, which is different than basically every other card game on the market, I was pretty fascinated going into the game wondering how they would handle card acquisition with such a different model. And now, over a year later, it has been absolutely amazing to learn the systems, watch the changes and modifications they've made to them, and realize that they have really done an outstanding job at making a system that really goes out of its way to deprive any sort of agency to the player. They really doubled down on that mobile game, gambling, gotcha goodness. The old triple G, as I call it. I was going to break down the full card acquisition system, but I just kept adding bullet points, and it was taking me so long to lay out that I realized it would take like an hour to just do the whole thing. So I'm just going to make as condensed a version as I possibly can to make sure we're just all on the same level of understanding how this works. If you want to see the whole thing, read the article I'm linking below. So long story short, After all the introductory bullshit, you effectively have two means of getting cards. You have the loot boxes and you have the shop. In reality, it's mostly the loot boxes because the shop is basically designed as a secondary method of actually getting cards, particularly after you have the main batch. Type number 1, the loot boxes. So as you move up the collection track, Marvel Snap's progression system, every 12 levels you get a loot box of varying flavors. These have a chance of giving you a card. Don't get a new card, and instead you get a measly amount of some arbitrary resource, and that resource doesn't necessarily contribute towards crafting a specific card you might want. That resource exists, but it is barren. Oh, you can also get filler cosmetics too, but I feel like that should be a given. Now, depending on the type of loot box you open, you can get two different kinds of cards. They're really all the same, but they're just broken up to make card acquisition more annoying. There are Pool 3 cards. There are 99 of them to get in total, and they consist of all of the cards previously released before June of 2023. You will understand why I said that date later. From Collector's Track level 500 to 1000, you open Collector's Reserves, which gives you a 50% shot at a card and a 50% shot at some measly little resource that probably doesn't matter. From 1000 and up, you opens Collector's Caches, which are just worse versions of reserves because your chance at getting a card is reduced to about 20%, give or take. The chance of you pulling resources is increased, but not the kind of resources you want to craft a specific card. And then this is where the filler cosmetics come in to even further dilute the chance of you pulling something actually fun. God, this is still taking so long. Now, the second type of card you can get is cards in Pool 4 and 5. There are 40 of these currently, and a new one is added every single week. Pool 4 cards cost 3,000 tokens to craft individually, and Pool 5 cards cost 6,000 to craft individually. That's where the tokens come in. This is taking so long. Now, also at Collector's level 500, you start getting access to Spotlight caches, which show up every 120 levels. Within these caches is 3 cards that rotate every week and 1 random Pool 4 and 5 card. Also, sorry if I keep saying Pool 4 or 5 or Series 4 or 5. There isn't really a common nomenclature, and my brain doesn't work very well, so it's the same thing. You have an equal 25% shot of getting all of these things, the 3 card or the random. Oh, and you can get duplicates out of the random, in which case you are given 1,000 tokens instead. Now, if you already have a card that is showing up in a Spotlight, that card will be replaced with a Spotlight exclusive variant. And in case you're wondering, no, you are not guaranteed to get cards you do not have over variants. It is still an even 25% shot at everything, including the random duplicate you're probably going to get. As I said before, that selection rotates every single week, and for some reason, according to Second Dinner themselves, appears to be dictated by the art that they have on hand for the Spotlight variants associated with that specific card. So if you want a card to show up that you haven't seen in a while, you better hope that they have a variant for it. A great example of this is Howard the Duck. These Spotlight caches have been going on since June. It is October, and data miners have figured out the scheduling for Spotlight caches through December, and Howard is nowhere to be seen and has not been seen at all. So if there's a card you want, you better pray that it's coming, or you get lucky in the shop and you have enough resources to just buy it. Also, Second Dinner only tells you the schedule of Spotlight caches at the beginning of a month. They do not give you any further months out than the present one. They do not want you to plan despite the entire system effectively relying on hoarding to be used effectively. If you want to have any sort of efficiency or planning for what you think you might want. You literally need to rely on external websites and sources to use it effectively. And if you want to guarantee you get that one card, you have to make sure you have 4 spotlight caches saved up, which on average you get 1 per week, which is a month's worth of saving. And chances are, because you have a 25% shot at everything, you're going to have to spend all 4 caches to get that one card you want, or else you'll be exactly like the people we see all the time on the subreddit talking about how they spent 3 caches and lost. And that one card they wanted, they didn't get. Great system. God, this takes so fucking long. And the second is the shop. You have a free Series 3 card that you can claim once a month. However, this rotates every 8 hours. You cannot just go to an overall collecting page and just craft the card. That would be way too convenient, you know? You can also buy a random Series 3 card for 1,000 tokens once every 8 hours. God forbid you craft something you could actually want. 3, there is a rotating Series 4 and 5 card. Once again, it's not like you spend forever accruing these incredibly scarce resources that you should just be able to spend on things that you want. You have to wait for them to show up. And 4, the new card of the week always has its own special little spot in the shop that you can just buy. The one non-bit of RNG in the game. God, that took so fucking long. Oh, and just so we're on the same page about tokens, because I know I sound unhappy about them, it's because I am. If you are not Series 3 complete, if you do not have all of the Series 3 cards, on average, you will accrue approximately 400 tokens per month. And that is only if you make sure to do all of your dailies and maximize progression. If you are Series 3 complete, you get about 800 tokens a month. Now, if you want to hit the bare minimum to buy a card, 3,000, that's about 4 months worth of accruing tokens, and about twice that, of course, for a 6,000 cost card. So yeah, it's not great, unless, of course, you buy the bundles that they sell tokens in. Wow. Never saw that coming. I'm sure I just blew your fucking mind. Oh, well, I'm sure you can see a common thread here from all my colorful complaining. If you want a card in this game, there is a 99% chance you will have to pray to RNGesus in order to get it. It doesn't matter if you're in hour 10 of playing the game or hour 100, because if you want to intentionally acquire a specific card, you need a massive investment of time and resources. And even if you do have that investment, you still have to hope and pray that that card even shows up for you. I will say, though, they did add the ability to pin specific cards in the shop, so it stops rotating and that card can just stay there so you can buy it in 10 years when you finally have the resources for it. It's still so annoying that they even need the pinning option, because there's still the slimy, sticky layer of randomness for it to even show up. Like, I don't get why you can't just go to your collection and make it, like in every other card game. In fact, if you're new and you see a card that you want, because of that rotation, there is a significant chance that that card that you want to show up will not. You can go an entire month of having the Series 3 card you want to claim rotate, and Venom could just not show up. And as I said before, when it comes to spotlight caches outside of the shop, you have to make sure that you have 4, which is an entire month's worth of resources stocked up to pull one single card. Because more than likely, you will have cards in there that either A, you do not care about, or B, you already have. So they could be just useless variants that do not contribute towards progression at all. Even if they look cool, it doesn't help you feel like your collection is growing or you're getting a new tool. When you spend 4 caches to get 1 card, it doesn't feel like you're getting 1 card. It feels like you're wasting 3 caches on things that you didn't want. But no, isn't that how card games work? These systems sound different, but the core principle is the same, right? You buy your card packs, you open random cards and hope you get what you want? Well, yes. But also, no. The yes, you do open card packs, or loot boxes in this case, and hope you get what you want from that card pack. That is a cycle as old as time. But no, and it's a pretty big no, is that a key element of so many other card games is that when you open cards, when you open card packs, you get resources that enable you to target specific cards. This varies between the game, of course. Sometimes it's Dust and Hearthstone, sometimes it's wild cards, sometimes it's a mix of the two, but you still get something to be able to eventually mitigate the inherent gambling of card games. And the most important part is that the more time you put into that card game, the more packs you open, the bigger your collection gets because you have more cards. Because you're getting less cards, you're getting more resources that you can use on filling out cards in your collection that you do not have. And another important thing that this enables is your ability to save up for future card releases. All digital card games have an element of randomness to it, but agency generally is supposed to increase over time as you become more familiar with the game, with its systems, with its cards. You can use the resources that you accrue to fill out gaps in your collection and craft cards and decks that allow you to play and engage with the game in the way that you find fun. Try decks you want to try, build pieces of decks you are missing, and just generally have a comfortable amount of control over how you want to participate in the game. The biggest problem with Marvel Snap is that cards do not feel exciting to earn because there really is no earning. You literally just gamble. And if you can, you scrape together a measly amount of tokens over a godforsaken amount of time to maybe craft a card that you have to hope to see in the first place. And that's only with Series 4 and 5. Series 3, all random. Get fucked. As you can see, I've made an amazing chart which illustrates this point that I'm talking about. As you play a game, as you invest time, as you grow your collection, as you get cards, you barely get any more agency over getting cards and how you engage with the game. And broadly speaking, I think this is for a couple of reasons. Unlike basically everything else, you do not get cards and resources in tandem. In Marvel Snap, you either get a card or you get a resource. You could argue that, sure, getting credits or boosters could count towards progressing towards another card, and tokens, that's the resource you use to buy cards, right? But you get them at such a small, insignificant rate that it feels almost pointless to actually have. And the second thing is that as you get more cards, the ratio of cards to targeting resources does not change. Technically it does, but it's insignificant. It does not feel like you are making up the difference in lack of cards you get in a meaningful way. A side effect of this, as I mentioned, is that it feels impossible to play catch up if you stop playing. I could log into Legends of Runeterra, into Gwent right now, and be able to play with basically any of the new cards that I want. I could spend a good chunk of my resources and have a solid deck made out of some fun new cards that I can then use to accrue additional resources to craft the rest of them and save up for whatever next release may be on the horizon. With Snap, if you see a card that has released since you stopped playing, you're not going to get it. You better pray you have some ridiculous amount of tokens to actually buy it. You have to hope that it maybe shows up in your shop if that's the one you want, because if it's in spotlight caches, good luck. Now, I understand that due to the card quantity of Snap being significantly smaller, it is not fair to completely compare how Snap does card acquisition to a more normally formatted game with much more cards. I do not have a problem with card acquisition in Snap being slower. That completely makes sense due to the format of the game. The problem is that those release valves that are present in those other games that give you some sense of agency do not exist in Marvel Snap in any meaningful capacity. Tokens are so scarce, and the scarcity of them really makes it feel like you need to save them for cards that like you need to have, or else you'll just get crushed by not having it, as opposed to spending them on cards that you find fun or interesting. Because if you don't get like, I don't know, Mobius or whatever, you're just going to get run over by that for God knows how long. See, the same dynamic is encouraged with spotlight caches as well, because they are so arduous to actually obtain that it feels like you have to save them for cards that you probably think are going to be particularly strong and relevant, so you don't get run over by missing out and not having them. And even if you do pull that one card that you feel like you want, it just always feels like, I said before, like I'm wasting spotlight caches to get a single card that I want because I don't have any other choice than to spend a month's worth of resources going after one single card because I got unlucky. Like, even when I do get lucky and I pulled like Silk first try or whatever, it wasn't like, oh yeah, whoa, I got Silk, I'm so excited to try Silk, wow, oh my god. It was, thank fucking god I don't have to waste more of my caches pulling for a bunch of shit that I don't want. Jesus Christ. See, particularly with the addition of spotlight caches and the gutting of tokens, the one resource to give you agency, it is so easy to see that the developers have intentionally designed a card acquisition system that fully leans into gambling. There are none of the standard release valves that I talked about in this game at all. And in some cases, it like even reverses itself, because in the case of spotlight caches, if you have more cards, chances are you will get less cards over time. You will just be getting a bunch of variants or duplicates, which translate into a minute amount of tokens that you don't give a shit about. So you're just wasting resources and not even having any progression at all. That's wild to me. Remember way back at the beginning when I said that Marvel Snap is a mobile game disguised as a card game? See, Marvel Snap has been long criticized by its card acquisition model, even way back in beta. Now, some people might not have been around for this. I was not. But Marvel Snap had a thing originally called Nexus events as a means of card acquisition. See, Ben Brode and Second Dinner had the amazing idea of putting cards into real money loot boxes. For 2 weeks, there was something called Nexus events, which you could purchase these loot boxes for a chance at opening 2 new cards that they released. And you know what? They canned it almost as soon as it came out. This is an excellent video that I'm going to link about breaking down the whole thing, but the gist of it is that these new cards locked behind these real money loot boxes had such monumentally low chances of being pulled, like 1.5%, that incrementally scaled at such minor amounts that you had to spend on average like $114 or something to get both of the cards. And that's if you got lucky. If you didn't, it could take you up to $220 something in order to get both cards. Every 2 weeks, people put months and months of work into coming up with and designing this system intentionally. They thought it was a good idea. After this was canned, at some point, they introduced the Series 345 thing. They added tokens as some means of targeting specific cards. And shockingly, it actually seemed like things were kind of on the upswing. The series drops started to happen. They were slowly buffing the amount of tokens that you got from collectors' reserves. they started selling bundles with tokens, which like wasn't a surprise, but it seemed like the amount that they were buffing things to were not terrible. Don't get me wrong, the overall system was still terribly flawed, but at the very least, it seemed like there was some momentum in a better direction for the game. But then Spotlight caches happened. Sweeping changes were made to the system. All new cards were added into the new Flavor of the Month loot box. Collector's reserves were nerfed into oblivion. The token rate was severely cut. You could no longer get Series 4 and 5 cards from collector's reserves. Series drops disappeared completely. And then people realized that the rate at which you could earn a single Spotlight cache was about a week, which of course, you know, on top of the token quantity reduction that you would get over time, felt real bad. But again, that's only if you regularly log on and do all your playing. I felt this in my soul. I felt the ghost of Nexus events was back through Spotlight caches. It's so clear that they wanted something like this in the first place, but they were too dumb to realize that making it this obviously expensive was not the way to do it. Come buy the agency you desire with all of our token bundles, says Ben Brode. I'll say it again. Whoever is in charge of the game design, of the cards, of the locations, of the art, of the sound, of the in-game stuff is brilliant. And I don't know if it's like a different batch of people, if it's a different team, or if it's whatever. But it seems like it has to be completely different folks who are responsible for making the just obscenely complicated progression systems that this game has. See, those people are also brilliant, but in a exploiting aspects of human psychology, particularly amongst those who may have addictive personalities or children, because this is a comic book game kind of way. Also, it's really cool that they added a random mystery variant in the shop that you can just buy. You can just gamble your real money currency in to probably get something bad instead of, oh, I don't know, just enabling people to buy what they want regularly. That's cool. We love gambling. Second dinner motto. We love gambling. But gambling makes the money. And as I'm sure a lot of people have seen, Second Dinner is making big money. All this being angry at card games has gotten me a little sweaty. Ugh. But anyways, ever since Spotlight caches have been released, I've really felt myself playing less and less over time. At this point, I honestly feel like I'm almost out of love for the game, despite, you know, how engaging the core gameplay is. But the fun of a card game is to be able to get and engage with new cards that you find fun and interesting. And it seems like Second Dinner goes out of its way to keep people from engaging with that. Like, if I can't mess around with new cards, what's the point? The thought of being chained to a game in order to, like, not even keep up with it, but to get some scraps every now and then, if I'm lucky, just is so unappealing. It's natural to run your course with things, with many different things, not just video games. Like, sometimes you just get tired of stuff and then you move on. Maybe you come back later. That's normal. But I just wish that with particularly video games that I wasn't getting tired of playing them because I've had my fun. I've had my fill. I'm maybe a little bored. I want to leave. I want to go do something else and maybe come back and see what's happening in a year or so. But because the game is designed in a way to punish you if you stop playing. It's meant to keep you chained to it like a second job in order to have some semblance of engaging with its systems. Marvel Snap is intentionally designed to punish you if you stop playing it. And that's dangerous. Like, if I stop playing this game, which is probably going to happen, especially after me thinking about all of this stuff, writing this video, I really don't think I'm going to be coming back unless there's massive changes, which I think we all know isn't going to happen. I know there is some optimism from the community, from content creators about second inner listening and improving and changing the game for the better. But to me, particularly after reading all of this off, it feels very apparent that the experience that the money people, the people who are in charge of the company and the direction of the game, want the users to have is one of convoluted systems of gambling, of selling agency, and making things as annoying as humanly possible. This goes beyond normal card game bullshit, and Nexus events is exactly what I'm talking about. That was their first vision that they put out into the world. And with the return of Spotlight caches, I see it. I see it coming back. As I said before, dude, the game part of the game, that shit bangs. Is so much fun. I really, really do love it. But now I've been experiencing the Spotlight cache era for a few months, and I really have given it an honest try. I really, really have. But I gotta say, the lack of agency and relying on external resources and gambling to maybe get what I want feels really bad. The ghost of Nexus events, the resurgence of more mobile game bullshit. I'm bummed. I'm bummed. It sucks. I broke all of this down because it's interesting to me. I'm a designer. I like systems and their function and how they affect people. I think that stuff is fascinating. Am I partially complaining because these problematic things I have spoken about before are ruining something that I like? Yeah, of course. But I'm not doing this as some plea to the developers. I'm not carrying around false hope that like shit's gonna get better. It's a fucking mobile game. It's got some fun cards in it. It's a good time. It's just handled like dog shit for the sake of exploiting people for money. Tale as old as time. Just saying, people need to lay off the copium. Have fun, tolerate it while you can, and get out whenever you want. Because that's probably what I'm doing. People need to realize that Marvel Snap is not a card game. It is a mobile game with cards in it. And that will fundamentally never change. Woo, okay. Now that all that good shit's out of the way, I told myself that I would give myself 60 seconds to complain about how variants are handled in this game, because I know, I'm repeating my own words here. The war on monetization is lost. It's over. We can't win. But I still want to do it anyways because it's my video, and this particular monetization system is just annoying. And I want to talk about it. 60 second freestyle. That's what's in my script. 60-second freestyle about how fucking annoying the execution of variants are. On your mark. Get set. Go. I can't believe that Marvel Snap possibly has one of the greatest possible sources of a monetization system of all time with alternate card art and is completely making it absolutely reliant on such heavy amounts of RNG. Like, there are over 1,000 variants that you can presently get for all the amount of cards, and more are regularly added into the game every single month. And the fact that you have to wait, you have to pray that the little 8 slots in your shop, it used to be 6 by the way, maybe gets the thing that you actually want to show up, that's just so fucking crazy. And the fact that so many different fun and cool variants are locked behind bundles or limited time events or battle pass bullshit, or now Spotlight variants exist for some fucking reason that nobody's ever gonna get because people can't even get the regular stuff they want at Spotlight cards anymore. Like, oh my god, it's just such an unbelievable fucking waste that you can't see every single thing and just buy it whenever you want because there's so much brain melting gamification bullshit that they just have to shove this RNG time. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Please watch more and subscribe, or else I will do nothing. Goodbye.